One thing that I think that can't be overemphasized, and that is how very important being a spouse is, being a husband or wife is, particularly if the marriage is strong and close. Ayn Rand was known as a philosopher, novelist, screenwriter, founder of the philosophy of objectivism. When she was asked her greatest accomplishment in life, she said marrying her husband, Frank O'Connor. And A Widow's Story, Joyce Carol Oates, the prolific author, wrote that she had really not identified herself primarily as a writer, though everybody thought of herself that way. She identified herself primarily as her husband's wife. And for a brief period, at least after his sudden death, she actually lost interest in her own writing. You know, everything except, I guess, writing a widow's story about what it was to be a widow, because she lost her husband, what gave her life meaning, what gave her life shape. I think Connie Chung, who's known as a newscaster, was asked her greatest accomplishment. She said marrying her husband, Maury Povich. Is this entirely just women who feel this way? I strongly suspect a lot of men, if they were being honest at least, would probably cite marrying their wives as their greatest accomplishment. And also another thing about that is that it is also true that statistically, men are much more likely to die after a wife dies. If the marriage has lasted a long time, a man is much more likely to die within the next year or so than a woman is. So that actually shows that, if anything, men might be more emotionally dependent on women than vice versa. I've talked about Theda Bara before, previously, and how she gave up her career when she got married to director Charles Braben. I don't necessarily think that was because, although it has been speculated that he didn't think she should have a career once she was married and he was well able to support her. Rather, I think it was because basically her career had kind of worn out by that time. She'd kind of gone as far as she could go with it, and the fashion had changed from, her exotic vamp sort of figure to the flapper type of, Clara Bow. And she kind of wanted to quit while she was ahead. And of course, she did have a husband, who could make it possible for her to not have to work outside the home. But anyway, my main point is that that can often be the principal identity of a person, and it probably naturally is the principal identity of a person, is to be a spouse.